Hey folks, it's your girl Lexi Mahari kicking out another episode of Buzzworthy Chit Chat. And in this episode, we're going to talk a little bit about Chris Noth and cancel culture. He has been accused by multiple women of sexual misconduct. And as a result of these accusations, he has lost a couple of jobs, right? Some sources or streams of income. But my question to you is, how are you feeling about cancel culture? Let's dive in. Hey folks, it's Lexi Mahari here with another episode of Buzzworthy Chit Chat. And in today's episode, we're going to dive in and talk a little bit about the Chris Noth sexual scandal that's going on at this point. As of the time of this recording, at least five women have come forward with allegations against the Sex and the City actor. According to an article published on Variety.com, a fifth woman, singer songwriter Lisa Gentile, alleges that she was sexually victimized and sexually abused by Chris Noth in 2002. Additionally, she states that he told her that if she ever told a soul about whatever happened the night before, that he would ruin my career. I would never sing again, and he would blacklist me in the business. As you know, or if you didn't know, at this time, Chris Noth has been fired from his job with the CBS series The Equalizer. In addition to that, he has lost some endorsements that he had out there, most notably the Peloton ad. In addition to that, I believe he also had some endorsement deals with a whiskey venture. And so, as a result of these allegations that have come out, he has lost each of these sources of income, you would say, right? And so, my question for those of you who are still watching this video or potentially listening to the podcast, what are your thoughts about cancel culture? I must say that out the gate, of course, every woman who is alleging that something happened to her deserves to be heard. No one is negating that point. Of course, they deserve to be heard. And, if things are within the law of statutes of limitations, these accusations deserve to be investigated. But I have to raise the question of cancel culture, right? And the impact on people's livelihood. And let's say take Chris Noth out of the equation. Let's say we have somebody else who potentially isn't guilty of these charges, right? Or charges similar to these. Let's play devil's advocate for a moment. You have to wonder about the immediate swift impact this has on people or has on people's livelihoods, right? And how they move forward without appearing or being condemned for their actions and pushing back in situations where maybe it's not true. We have to be honest with ourselves and acknowledge that unfortunately we have bad apples in the bunch, and sometimes they can make false accusations against people, and it has happened. You can't deny that this has never happened, that someone has made a false allegation against somebody. And so I just raised the question of, what happened to, investigations, right? I mean, everything these days that happen, it's just swift and immediate, and people are canceled and their livelihoods are at stake. And so as a result of that, it to me creates potential long-term risks, right? What's going to happen one day when we do run into women and not just women, anyone who makes a false accusation that leads to someone's demise, financially, at least for a little while, and it's proven that something else completely different happened. So, yeah, I just find it interesting that how swiftly things have happened. He is not the first this has happened to. Obviously, there have been other cases in which someone was accused of wrongdoing and they were immediately canceled. Now, we know people do make comebacks, but unfortunately, with this particular situation, I don't see how you come back from this, right? And the more women that come forward, of course, the more culpable he is going to appear to be, and likely is. if we weigh what we've seen in the past, if we think about his wife, there are rumors circulating that she has removed her ring. So I would suspect that they have had some conversations, right? Hopefully, this was not a shocker to her. It, the information as it's being conveyed, the alleged information as being conveyed, comes across as a pattern of behavior, unfortunately, for this actor. And it is unfortunate that, that if it transpired, it did transpire that way. But you would have to wonder if his wife saw any patterns, and she may not have, right? Sometimes you think you know someone, you can live with someone for years and not really know their true nature, unfortunately. So she may not have ever witnessed any type of behavior in him. But I do wonder, if she did see any of that. The fallout from Noth's behavior has, of course, gained reaction from various people that may have been in his circle, most notably the And Just Like That cast, also known as the Sex and the City cast. Davis, Kristen Davis, Cynthia Nixon, and Sarah Jessica Parker have each addressed the allegations against Chris Noth in a joint statement that was released, I believe it was earlier this week, if not this week, late last week. Their statement was as follows: We are deeply saddened to hear of the allegations against Chris Noth. We support the women who have come forward and shared their painful experiences. We know it must be a very difficult thing to do, and we commend them for it. And that is the joint statement that was issued. I must say that when I hear joint statements such as the one released by the Sex and the City cast, or the three primary characters at least, I always wonder if they make an offline call to the accused, right? This is someone that they worked with on and off for years now. This could be another situation very similar to what Kim Cattrall has been relaying all this time, about them not being authentic friends, right? She was very vocal that she and Sarah Jessica Parker and or the other ladies were not really friends. They were coworkers, acquaintances, who went through this series together. So it would seem that perhaps it's the same situation with Chris Noth, right? I would not expect them to defend him per se, right? Because this is a very controversial topic, and we don't want women who have truly had things happen to them to fear coming forward and making statements. However, I would expect that if they had a true relationship, a more authentic statement would have been made by the Sex and the City cast. So, just to give you an example of what I am trying to convey here, I kind of like to um, associate it with what we see on the evening news sometimes, right? When some horrific crime happens in the neighborhood, and the news reporter goes to a neighbor and says, "Hey, did you ever see anything that would have made you think this could happen?" Usually the neighbor's response is, no, they kept to themselves. They seem like a nice guy. They always spoke to me. I never had any issues with this person. And so that's the kind of response I was looking to hear from the cast, and particularly even SJP, as the person who acted most closely and intimately with this person. What was her observation? If we think about the Bill Cosby situation, Felicia Rashad, say what you will about her, she said, "Hey, this was not my experience with him." And yeah, later on she said some other things that got her in trouble. But in the early stages of all of this that was going on, I appreciated her saying, "Hey, this was not my experience. I never experienced any of this with him. This never happened to me." That's not to say that he didn't do all those other things that he was accused of doing. It did not acquit him of having potentially done these things, but it gave insight into that person's behavior on the set. So while I can appreciate the joint statement that was issued by the three women of Sex in the City slash and Just Like That, I cannot help but to wonder what behaviors did they observe in him. They worked with him on and off for several years. And so rather than issuing a politically correct statement, I would love to get more of a realistic statement, right? So I know they can't just come out and say, yeah, he was a pervert on the set if that was true. But if they never observed these behaviors in him and working with him for all those years, it would be great if they said, we never observed these behaviors. However, we stand in support of these women. A more realistic statement, I think, for me, make that joint statement issued sound more authentic. So I will say that I struggled with that. I applaud them for, you know, taking a public stance and issuing a statement, period. I just kind of struggle with the way it was communicated as if they observed something as well, right? It was like we automatically stand with these women as opposed to, saying, hey, we never observed these things. However, we stand in support of these women. I think that would have been a more truthful statement to make. So it would appear that his former coworkers are standing alongside the women who are, uh, making these accusations. Chris Noth has denied the previous accusations. He has stated that in the cases in which these women are alleging rape and/or assault, he is saying that their interactions were consensual. One of the statements Chris Knotts made after one of the initial accusations is as follows. These stories could have been from 30 years ago or 30 days ago. No always means no. That is a line I did not cross. The encounters were consensual. It's difficult not to question the timing of these stories coming out. I don't know for certain why they are surfacing now, but I do know this. I did not assault these women. So I imagine time will tell. Gloria Allred is representing at least one of the alleged victims. And so I would suspect that if there aren't any criminal cases brought forward, there will be some civil cases. And I'll close out this video by saying I think that if Chris Noth is guilty of these accusations, of course, he should be held accountable in every way possible at this point. I do, of course, question where we are with the statute of limitations from a criminal standpoint. But of course, if these things are true, I do hope the victims are heard. And if it's not true, good luck to him in proving otherwise. But I want to get your thoughts about cancel culture and how you're feeling about the swiftness in which people have to pay for their alleged crimes. All right, folks, that concludes this video. Thank you for taking the time to listen today. Take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell. Stay safe, folks, and I'll catch you in the next Buzzworthy Chit Chat video.